We have 600 pages. We have 20 solid hours of absolute... I love Seinfeld. The show is about nothing.
How do we get there? And we mentioned this earlier on. We were talking about the similarities between business speak and writing a story. And that's that you find out what your goal is and you work towards it.
In the room, 52 Jokers Wild.
Right, so this is episode 40, which will be going out on the 30th of October this year. And actually, we've been talking about double acts and looking at different ideas of how we can keep on working and doing what we're doing here on our little show with me in Newry and Garvin in Thomastown, which is quite interesting because of the lockdown. But we've just had a really wacky session of discussing ideas and thinking of ourselves as being these two famous guys, or at least in their own minds, or in their own...
Infamous. I don't know about famous.
Yeah, infamous, And actually, the whole idea of messing around and thinking that we're there actually is actually the most appealing part because it's the most funny bit, I think, from what we're doing. And then from there, we came up with I'm actually looking at the word double act at the moment, just the comedy duo type things, and really about the different caricatures that we have that play off one another. And we're getting comments from those people that do, the two people that watch us at the moment. We get comments about...
So I watch George and George watches me, and we double counting ourselves to be those. So these two people that are watching us being watching ourselves on a regular basis. Every other night. We put on it's unbelievable. Every other night.
We become different characters. Yeah. We put on the different wigs and the different hats and the different coats and pretend we're different people and then press the play button. I think that becomes...
And that's acting, I believe.
Yes, it's acting out. Acting, it's taking some kind of action to do something. Well, somebody has to, because if we don't, we won't get an audience. So we go and watch it.
Now, like you were talking there now, I just have my little calendar, which I refer to every now and again. And what today? Well, it's not today's. I'm jumping forward a day because I didn't like today's. I don't know what today's was. This one suits me better. So when you cease to dream, you cease to live. And that's a little bit of what we were talking about earlier on. It's, in the absence of dreaming and having this vision quest or this journey in life of why we want to be still here, why we want to keep on going. We don't want to be putting in time. We don't want to be existing. We don't want to be dreading going to work. We don't want to be dreading exercise. And that's a bit of the conversation we were having as well, as we're meant to be enjoying this. And therefore, what is the this we're meant to be enjoying? And that conversation we had was about this dreaming. If we're not... We start to mix a language of business plan and, dreamscape. You're going, we're in, the business wants to be a successful business. Your life wants to be a successful life. In order to have a successful life, we may have to have a successful business or be an employee in it. In order to get the money, to get all the trappings of what we envisage our successful life to look like. And what we start to realize was if we mix the two together, because if you have neither, then how are we going to... What does our success look like in the future? And we decided that our success, what it could look like is we are the stars of our own show. Why are we writing films for other people when we can actually write our own? What is a business plan? It's your successful you in the future, bring it forward to now. And what do we need to do to achieve that? And it's the same thing. That's what's starting to happen. We can actually, that's what that saying there is. We're not ceasing to dream. We're actually starting to dream. We're starting to dream and visualize and get the vision of what it is we want. Because if we're only dreaming, it can be anything. Why would we limit ourselves? We can put the limitations in afterwards. And that's where budget, resource, and the business language comes in. But at the beginning, let's not do that. Let's not worry about it. Let's say and dream and make real and manifest the us that we want to be, the real us now as we visualize ourselves and as we dream ourselves in our own Walter Mitty kingdom of the Truman Show.
And that's the thing. Why not be Walter Mitty? Because he seemed to be having fun. Yes, he drifted out out of reality every now and then, but sometimes we need to do that. And in fact, most people these days, they could be said, are drifting out of reality all the time because they're stuck on their mobile phones. But that's not what we're doing. We're trying to take some kind of action. And the two films that we've made in the past, actually all the films I've made in the past, that you start off with an empty screen or an empty sheet of paper, and you start to say, okay, well, how do we turn this into something? What's the end goal? How do we get there? And we mentioned this earlier on. We were talking about the similarities between business speak and writing a story. And that's that you find out what your goal is and you work towards it. And what I actually said before was that in the script idea, you've got all these blocks or antagonistic elements that get in your way. But when you go to the business speak, they seem to go straight for the goal. And you're kind of going, where's all the blocks? Where's all the things that get in the way that actually help develop the character into something special? Because you can see whether or not he will get over those blocks and get over all those problems and do what he can, you know. Can George fight against Garvin's kids with all those knives and those things that they have now he armed them with a few episodes back? Or will he have to find another way to get there to make his movies? You've got to find, it's finding the solutions to those problems. But that's the bit that you can have a lot of fun. And I think that's something we were doing during the early part of today was the conversations. We were sparking ideas, bouncing them backwards and forwards, seeing what could come from them. I talked about motorbikes.
We actually, you were talking about what?
About motorbikes. You kind of go, no, it's got to be a Mini. And I kind of go, well, should it be a UFO? Or hang on a second, should it be, I don't know, a rocket? Or should I be Biggles?
Well, that's what I was trying to inject a bit of reality into the 6'6" that I am, trying to fit into a sidecar that doesn't exist of a motorbike we don't actually have. That's an image of, but again, what we caught ourselves arguing over something that didn't exist, well, may never actually exist, and the fact I couldn't fit into it. I mean, when you step back out of the conversation, you suddenly realise this is total nonsense. No, actually, I can make it fit, because if it didn't exist to begin with, why don't I just make it bigger? And now I fit, and there's no problem. But then we start to realise the story is not about fitting in. The story is about the square peg in the round hole. It's about making it fit, and making do, and getting on with the 80-20, and getting from A to B in your fictional sort of motorbike with sidecar. And then we were arguing over who's driving. I'm saying, well, I'm taller, I'm driving because it gives me more leg room, and you're a little bit shorter, you'll fit in the sidecar. But then it was the opposite. There's no fun in that. Anyway, I can't ride a motorbike, never have. George has a motorbike and can. Therefore, he's in the driving seat, and I'm in the sidecar.
It's only got a 50cc engine. Does that count?
With my knees in visualizing myself with my knees up against my face, sitting in this small sidecar, going on a journey of exploration of our script or our story or our business plan. And that's what it really was, is where did this couple of minutes of imagery come from? It came from nowhere. It came from a spark of a conversation, of an idea. And what it looks like, and in seconds you'd seen one and scene two of a screenplay. You didn't need to overthink things. You're now filling in the gaps. Actually, I mean, the same in business language.
What's really fascinating is it's not nowhere, because this is episode 40, and you've been discovering that when you actually transcribe each of our programs, there's 7,000 words in there. So we're talking about, is it? I don't know, can't count.
Now, admittedly, George, 66% of them are probably me at the speed I'm travelling. And I've noticed a few of our episodes. My lips are actually... you're going to have to slow down the visual effects of these lips, because they're flapping at 90 miles an hour. I've actually watched some episodes where I didn't understand what words were trying to come out of my own mouth. They were going so fast. But I nearly had to fill in the gaps after the fact in the subtitles for YouTube to let them know what I meant. But what was interesting, as you said, is it's 35 minutes or 40 minutes of 7,000 words. Now, is it nonsense? Or was it a good conversation? It was a solid 7,000 words, 35 minutes of not taking a breath, about a word that sparked a journey of a conversation of imagery and opinions, and whether it mattered or didn't matter. And if it didn't, you moved on. It was not a case of us being lost for words, or lost for discussion, or lost for conversation. And in the language of what we talk about out there is for the loss of content. Now, whether it's of any use is for the audience to decide, but we had a good time.
I think the important thing is that a lot of people they kind of go, what am I going to do? How am I going to do this? And they start worrying about it so much that they end up doing nothing. Whereas we've created volumes of material that we now can go back and start to edit it into something and create something that would be enjoyable and fun. And what we were doing was looking at bits of text which were us having a conversation. Now, we've got green screen behind us. Hopefully you won't see that at the moment, but we might just make it green so you can see it. But we've got green screen. We can throw any images behind us. And we were starting to visualize with the text, which could be dialogue, different scenarios that we could be in actually having those conversations that could turn it into a drama. And at the end of the day, that's what you're doing, is you're trying to mine for material and find out what you can do and turn it. Where's the conflict? And there's always conflict in this because we're battering one another for the space to be able to talk. And sometimes I get a little bit longer.
And the great thing is, George says, look, we're 40 episodes in at an average of 6,000 words or 14 pages. We're 600 pages of nothing. Of nothing. We have 600 pages. We have 20 solid hours of absolute. I love Seinfeld. The show is about nothing. But it's not nothing. It's life. And the fact that everyone in the show is having these aspirations of going off and doing something else, or doing the minimum, or doing the maximum, or trying to succeed and then failing helplessly. But at the same time, it was consumable content. It's not Gogglebox sitting at watching someone watching nothing. This is us discussing and drawing on the past, some things that led to these conversations, and now repurposing experience or learnings of the past in meaningful conversations with ourselves. That gives us we've touched on one of our podcasts, ammunition. We have a storeroom of ammunition now, that the bullets are for the gun, that we can take one bullet at a time and now aim and target it at an audience that might like that 1 minute of something that has a value alignment with it.
And the great thing is, unlike a lot of the videos that we're currently seeing and a lot of messages that we're getting from various different people on different platforms, we're actually not trying to sell anything at the moment, as in we're not giving you a pitch. We're not going out there and ramming stuff, I'll come and do this for you. It's we're building up relationships. Well, we're building up a relationship between me and Garvin here as we're having a conversation.
We're trying to entertain. Yeah. We're trying to stay away. Actually, that's back to that thing over there. When you cease to dream, you cease to live. We're alive. We're living. We may not be going too far out the front door based on what's happening out there, but we're alive, and we want to acknowledge that. We're living. We're here. Hear his roar. We're reaching out, and we're saying, our first episode is, let's create a voice. Whose voice? Well, Garvin's loud and George's is listenable to. I'm rambling and ranting. You might be logical and rational. Or at different times, depending on the subject matter, that actually swaps over. I might go a little bit rational and logical in business speak and draw on the accountancy and consultant past. But that was the close of dressed up dread, in my opinion now, based on 30 years of what I could have been doing in terms of content creation, or be the real you, not be when we say influencer or social media, I'm going, no, I think I want to be an entertainer. I don't know what that is in terms of how I can be it, but I know now I'm getting much more empowered with George and working with George to become the real me, to stop living the dream and start living the life. And that's where we're trying to say to other people as well, we don't know what your dream or aspiration is. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be just to be a good gardener and grow a new rose. Whatever it is, there's nothing at all stopping you other than your own physical dread of starting. It's that hurdle is the biggest hurdle, the biggest step, the furthest step. And once you step up there and step on that ladder, it's the stairway to heaven, stairway to the stars. There's only one way it's up.
Well, during that part of the conversation, I was being reminded of It's a Wonderful Life, in which there was a George in that as well. And he was having all these kind of problems. And every time he tried to leave the little town they lived in, something occurred that pulled him back into the middle of it, until eventually he got pulled out of his life altogether and began to see how, because he wasn't there, how he wasn't influencing things that were going on around him. And you kind of go, well, actually, you know what? That's a bit like what we're doing. We're not intending to influence. We don't think we're influencing, but we are living our lives and trying to find different things.
No, we are influencing.
Oh, we are, yeah.
We're influencing each other. We don't have to influence any further. We're influencing ourselves. It's not our responsibility to influence anyone else.
We're not going out deliberately.
Audience of one's responsibility.
We're not going out deliberately to influence, but we are actually influencing. Because I know that, it's like that friend of mine that came with his book last week, and he put me in his acknowledgements, and I was kind of going, but what did I do? And he's kind of going, well, you helped me put this together just by the influence you had on me in story structure. And he went, oh, right, okay. So we're not intentionally going out to become influencers, but we do it just because we are being proactive and going out and doing stuff. And that's what I think is important, is keep on trying, see what's possible, testing, teasing ideas out.
Show by evidence.
See?
Like a very, very good affirmation you said earlier on, like just in this show even is, this is episode 40. Whenever it goes out, it is episode 40. It's an average minimum of half an hour. It's 20 solid hours of, I don't know what, something. It is 20 solid hours of us discussing life, the universe, and everything else, or what could, not only life, the universe, and everything, but what can be, what could be, what should be, what might be the future universes, the multiverses of possibilities and opportunities yet to be fulfilled or manifested. And we're not worrying about where we are now. We're already there. We're here. That's where we are now. Past tense. As soon as we say it, it's already past tense. It's where do we want to be? Where are we going? And how fast can we get there? And it's not about speed, because we have to enjoy each moment. It's not how fast can we get there, only in a sense of, if there's a lot of dread along the way, I want to get through it as fast as humanly possible. But in the same sentence, you're going, why would you be wishing yourself any one of those moments away? It's how slow can we get there, and enjoy every step along the way and arrive at the there we're talking about, which is the end of days, the end of life. This is your life. I don't know who used to give that one. You probably remember the chap's name. That's what we're looking for. This is your life. This is your life. Go live it every day, every moment, every minute. There's no rush to the end game, because even when you get to one end, that should be the beginning of the next till the day you die.
Yeah, and I think there's a couple of things, because I started thinking about not Eamon Holmes, but the other one, Eamon, whatever his name was, that did This Is Your Life and all that kind of stuff. But I think one of the other parts that I began to realise was that my mum has been watching the show, and she, as an 82-year-old, is giggling away at some of the things that we're coming up with and stuff. And you kind of go, isn't that lovely that you could sit down for breakfast with your mum, put something on, it just happens to be us, that pops up on YouTube. And then she's having a good old giggle because of what we're actually talking about. And you kind of go, that's a nice little bit of fun. That's something that somebody's enjoying. And you're getting those kind of comments coming back as well, which inspires you to keep on pushing and trying things out. Now, one of the things that you had been talking about, which is what was the piece that I'd lost track of just a moment ago, was about it's not about speed, it's not how fast. And a lot of clients I've been working with, they enjoy working with us because we slow them down. They build up all this pressure and they can't enjoy what they're doing, and they're almost giving themselves a heart attack and having stress because it just builds up and builds up. And if you say, no, just calm down, chill out, let's breathe, and let's start to enjoy this. Otherwise, none of us is going to have fun. And actually, as soon as they do that and they chill out and they take the pressure off themselves, they start, as you said, they start to live. They start to see possibilities. They start living in the now and enjoying that whole process they're actually going through. And then all of a sudden you kind of go, well, actually, I was thinking I only could do this, but what if we do that instead, or something else? And all of a sudden these other ideas start to blossom, and other possibilities. I mean, I've got a book here that we did a couple of years ago, massive great book called, and this is something that I published for a friend. But it started as a very small book. And that one book, which you kind of think, well, look, it'll never really sell because it's so big, has actually generated something like £75,000 for the building of several schools in Africa and India. And we never imagined that could do that. So just going out and simply doing something, just going on that dream, you never know where it's going to end up. But if you don't do it, it'll never end up there in the first place. And that's the key thing. You've got to do it. So whatever those are, before it's too late as well.
No, I got an interesting little connection from, I'm on LinkedIn before this conversation, and I keep on pressing the button, the magic button, like going, hello world, this is us, heroes roar, this is what we're at, who are you? And a response comes back from some lady, and she's saying, this is a very unusual connection request. I never get, like, why would you in the film industry want to connect with the likes of me? But no, in all intents and purposes, not quite paraphrasing, but that's what it was really implying. And I was thinking to myself and George in our language of, well, you're the one we want to connect with, because otherwise we're connecting with ourselves. If we're connecting with more people in the film industry, okay, for certain reasons that makes sense, but it's silos connecting to silos. The audience of what we may produce is the world and its mother and you, and we don't know who you are. You're a young white single female, 45 years of age, living in Ireland with a job, but your son could want to go to our school. Your husband might be interested in getting into becoming an extra in one of our movies. You yourself might start writing and want to get a screenplay or produced and financed. And nothing else. We've all these little ditties we'd love you to look and listen to. You might get a bit of mentoring along the way, or self-coaching as a follow our journey, and be entertained and informed. So everybody out there, from 82-year-old George's mothers to any unknown person with a life that wants to live it, is our potential customer, in the sense of we might be two middle-aged white, one bald and one with hair, coming from the island of Ireland. But what we're saying is, it's okay. It's okay to dream. It's okay to live your life. It's okay not to get too stressed about other people's affirmations. The only thing that matters is, how do you feel in your own skin? Are you enjoying this is your life? Aiming whoever. And that's all that matters. And if you don't like this one, start again, build a new one, or just iterate, pivot in business language. There's nothing stopping you or nothing holding you back except yourself.
Now, when the Game of Thrones was being made here in Northern Ireland, it wasn't the filmmakers, the local filmmakers that were involved. It was the carpenters, the caterers, the hairdressers, the costume. I say people made clothes. It was the person that knew how to go out and get the odd trinket from the odd shop.
It's the sum of all the parts, and it's everybody and anybody.
Absolutely. It's the electricians, the carpenters, the mechanics, the people that had like I have a brother-in-law who has a load of cars, and he started collecting second-hand, 30-year-old cars, and all of a sudden he was starting to make money out of his cars because they needed them.
George, you have to start using the right language of branding. He's not collecting 30-year-old cars. He's investing in classic cars. They're investments. They're not second-hand throwaways. They're actually accumulating assets.
He's making money out of them. Yeah. But this is it. You
go.
You never know where. It's like
he's not creating a junkyard.
No, but the thing is that there was some guy that was collecting all the technology that was going out of date. He was collecting an example of all of them and created a museum. And then all of a sudden, when they wanted to make a movie that's set somewhere in the past, within the recent past, they could have the technology. And it's only because of those sort of people collecting that you could have those represented in your film.
Hoarders, you're saying.
It's fabulous. It's like, if you're looking for someone in the 60s and you want a camera from the 60s or you want a car from the 60s, you go to those places to get them picked up. This is it. I mean, to make films look believable, you need real things in those films to be able to represent what they were. And you need to get it right. I remember watching all the old war movies, and I kind of go, that's 1945, but they're using a tank from 1955. Oh, I don't believe it. And that became really, really important, that you didn't just get something you thought was around about that time. Great scenes in the likes of Doctor Who that travel through time, not time through travel, the other way around. And basically, they were trying to work out had they got the right costumes, and they were being criticised because they went back to a period where they were 6 months out of date with their costumes. They were wearing them. Oh no, that's old.
Well, for that one member of the audience that was wearing his double glazed glasses while checking the times of trains and 15 stations, you're going, that is not the masses. That is not catering to the 80-20. That is the weirdo at the end of the queue that's going to be more educated in terms of the reality of the situation versus the entertainment of the content. If we start getting into continuity issues and most of the films out there, you'd be here till doomsday writing up the list of why that's nonsense, as opposed to did it entertain me for €5 for the 90 minutes in question.
Yes, but people do still. It's like, for example, did you get the right motorcycle engine? Oh no, that's not a Honda 250. That's actually a Triumph. You got the wrong engine, but oh no, it'll do. Actually, talking about sounds, we got this new little handheld Hoover, and when we turned it on, it sounded like a jet engine. I went, oh, there's a great sound effect. I must stick a microphone in there and record it. But again, it's like, it's looking at the world from a different perspective. So actually having somebody else in a job that they may not think is anywhere related to the film industry, that might be the ideal thing, because you need a little bit of research based on what their activities, what they're doing, that could help you make your film believable. Especially if it's an actor that needs to go and talk to somebody that's doing activity that they're doing.
No, and actually, strangely enough, we are the case in point. This is how we met. I was saying I have nothing to offer the film industry. No, not nothing to offer the film industry. It's going, if I ask for a job in the film industry coming from being an accountant anywhere else on the planet, and I'm not looking for an accountancy job in the film industry, they're going to go, join the queue, it's a long one, and it's back there at the end of the abyss, and where doomsday is, and hell freezes over on the right of it. That's where your queue starts, when hell freezes over. But so skip the queue. I don't believe in queues, because if you're joining the end of the queue, it's going to use up an awful lot of time going nowhere. So we like to skip queues. Actually, we're going to move the playing field. That's what we're doing. We've created our own academy at a higher standard than the current ones out there. We've used innovative, disruptive methodologies, applied the best to leapfrog what the standard currently is. In the meantime, we're the star of our own film. We're the star of our own show, because we are the star in our own lives. So why take all that away and join someone else's queue? Sorry, the queue starts and ends here. We are at the top of the queue, and if actually everyone else can get behind. Let's just go out there and do what it is you want to do. Do not look for someone else to give you permission or ask permission of them. Don't keep on joining queues. Join it by all means if you want to, but have a second a plan B, a plan C, and a plan D. Because if you're just plan A is join the queue, and when you get to the top there's no position and there's no more seats on the train and the plane, then where are you going? Time gone. Nothing happened other than moving from A to B to C in a queue.
That brings us right back to that sort of little thing about the story structure, where if you've got your end goals and there are obstacles getting in the way, but we're in that conversation, we're recognizing that there are obstacles and there are people that are blocking us from actually achieving what we want. And what we're doing is finding ways to get around them. And that storytelling process, right, what's the next obstacle? How can we get around that? How do we make it a molehill instead of a mountain? How can we crush it if we need to actually crush it and keep on moving forward? How do we build up that confidence that what we're actually doing is meaningful and does sort of offer people a good laugh somewhere along the line, or at least makes them think a little bit more about what their lives are like and help them change in some form or fashion. And we're going to be doing that for loads of people in lots of different areas. And it doesn't matter who they are, what they are. Each one of them has some kind of capability of doing something and achieving something. And we do believe that. They don't have to be overly successful. What they do need to do is to put it into action and start to put it and move it forward and take the next step to achieve those goals that could be, and otherwise you end up kind of getting to the end of your life kind of going, God, I could have done this, or I could have done that, or I could have done that. Well, why not just go and do it? Start now. It's not the end of your life yet. You're where you are. forget about the
That's
past,
it. You're
you know?
back to this. You have this curve out there. I don't know what the name of the curve is.
Character arc.
It's not the Maslow hierarchy of needs, and it's not the law of diminishing returns, but it's back to that curve whereby where are you on the curve, depending on what the context is. And we were saying, you touched on it there. This conversation is not necessary for those successful people that know where they are and have succeeded in what they're doing and are working on all these things. It's for the have-nots, not for the haves. It's for the ones that don't know, not the ones that do. It's for the ones that are stuck, that want to move forward, not for the ones that are stuck and happy to put up and shut up. So that curve is the laggards, the followers, the innovators. Where in that curve, if the doers versus the just turn ups. There's a place for everyone on the curve, the give ups and the newly starters. So we will be at different places in that curve in our life where we get all enthusiastic at the beginning, but we keep on reaching blocks, and then we just end up putting up and turning up and putting in time. Versus we start the curve again and go, I want to be an innovator. I want to be a leader. I don't want to be a follower. I said to my son, like just walking up here earlier on from my coffee going, stop being a user, be a creator. Now, if you're looking at these other, game players and you want to be one because you want to earn from that, then take the best of them and wrap them around the difference, which is you. And now you do something else and be a bigger fish in a smaller pond with a higher value proposition that will attract people to you, because you do not want to be a me too, or has like another of the same. It's the difference that makes the difference and positions you at a different point in that curve. So, because the statistics are, it's that top 10%, and it's not an education thing. It is if it's an education curve. But we're saying we are no longer in the middle of the curve, putting in time and having our 40-hour week or 60-hour week job based on what someone else says to get a minimum something. We're quite happy to forego X amount of monetary something to get a much more enjoyable dreamscape manifesting into a reality, wrapping around, we made this happen. We made this different. We created this from nothing. This content, this possibility, this opportunity, this relationship from pressing a button that we never pressed before. It's about turning up, making a difference, being the difference, and maybe influencing others to see that they can do the same. And that would be great, as opposed to putting in hours and wishing to get home to put on Netflix.
And the great thing is that, it's not the great thing. What we're actually doing is that we're actually physically doing something. We're getting up, setting plans into motion. We're not just talking about it and then kind of losing time. We have discussions, but we then put it into action. We kind of go, right, let's just do it and see what happens. And it's to do it and see what happens is the key thing. Because I remember I used to do a lot of drawing. I still do drawing. But I used to get to a point where you kind of go, oh God, if I do this wrong, it's going to be messed up. And I'm going to ruin it. It's not going to be any good. And I've wasted all that time. Now it's kind of, no, just slap it on, see what happens. Okay, we'll do it again. The less you worry about how you think the outcome and don't worry about what other people think of what you're doing. If you just do it, you're accumulating a mass of material that you can repurpose, replay, redo, and turn it into something that's special. It does take time. It does take a lot of hard work. We're not doing the 40-hour weeks where we can't wait to get home, and we're not doing that extra overtime or anything like that. But we are working long hours. I sometimes don't get to bed until 1:00 in the morning because I've been working on a project, but I'm there because I want to and I've forgotten what the time is, not because I feel as though I have to. I'm just working away, and I'm actually enjoying the whole process. And that's the key thing. We're enjoying what we're doing. And
now we use the word process there. An awful lot of our language in the last couple of episodes is saying we've got this rhythm. We found our process, our production process, that we can wrap around this content. The content doesn't matter what's in the middle yet, because we know we can put something there. Someone else's or our own or a combination thereof. But we have the process figured. We're fine tuning it. It's an 80-20. It doesn't need to be perfect. It gets us up out there and onto X platforms. We're not experts on marketing. Most people aren't, because they're an expert on something else. They can't be an expert on everything. And even if they're starting to do a bit of that, that is still is what they shouldn't be doing, because they're an expert on something else, and their time is better spent on what they're the expert in. But we're actually enjoying the multiple types of processes of production of content, production of marketing, and enough of it. But we're also finding our home, a natural home now, is not where we thought it was. It wasn't in the production process or the distribution process, but more in the delivery of the actual content in terms of its creation. And so we're putting ourselves front and center and saying, we have advice, and by God, it's a loud one in my case, and George's, you can listen to it a bit better than mine. But it's what we want to say, and we're saying it to ourselves. We're coaching ourselves, motivating ourselves. We're listening to ourselves, and it's mad. But that's what everyone does. Everyone was walking down the street with an inner voice, and it's talking non-stop through their entire lives. It's their inner dialogue. And we're now turning up and changing. No, what we're influencing is our inner dialogue of what is now speaking back and saying it. It's starting to say in my head, I'm thinking George's is, you can do it. Not only you can do it, you are doing it. You're not going to do it. It's already happening. And this is what you're going to do next. And after that, the other. And why don't you consider this as well? It's not going, don't exercise, don't go out. It's scary out there. Look for a job. Get back into the curve and just turn up and put up and shut up. It's going, no. Can't wait to do. And it's now starting to it's starting to coach me. My own inner voice is now talking back to me in a coaching capacity.
And what's interesting is that part of the idea of coaching, counseling, and mentoring is not for the person that's doing all those things to you to give you the solution. Is to allow you the space to bounce out your ideas so that you can find those solutions yourself. And that becomes better because you then learn from that process. It's not just something that's surface level, it's there, it's gone. Because you've been allowed to analyze that within yourself, you can now put it into action, and it'll stay with you for longer, and it'll stay with you for the rest of your life, actually, if you do it in that sort of way. So I think that's a really good thing. We're actually coming to the end of our program now, because we're up to about 36 minutes. It's Halloween tomorrow night when you get to see this. So I hope this wasn't a horror show for you. I hope you look forward to next week's episode in November. And we're enjoying ourselves. And if it's just me and Garvin that are watching this over and over again, well, hey-ho, we're going to learn something from it, and we're going to repurpose it and get something out of it. At least 3 or 4 different short versions anyway. So that's me.
It. Now, goodbye from him. Now, I think there was one song out there. I think it was Queen. No, or am I not? I don't even know which song it is. Could even be Talking Heads, but it's "Dream It, Be It." I'm quoting it in the sense that we're no longer dreaming it, we're now being it, and then we're going to dream it again and be it again.
Do what it says on the tin. Follow and share.